It's now 2 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and get started with the Bureau of Justice Assistance FY20 Strategies for Policing Innovation Initiative Solicitation webinar. My name is Chris Sun. I am the project manager for the SPI Training and Technical Assistance team, and today we'll be hosting the webinar on behalf of the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Ms. Kate McNamee will be providing the content of today's webinar. She is the SPI Senior Policy Advisor.
I want to welcome you all and good afternoon. As Chris said, my name is Kate McNamee, and I oversee the SPI program at BJA, and I'm pleased to be with you all today to go over the 2020 Competitive Grant Program. So, as an overview of today's webinar, we will be talking about what SPI is and what it has achieved for the policing field, who is eligible to apply, and what activities and purchases funds can support, where we are focusing the solicitation's purpose areas in 2020, what a competitive application demonstrates, as well as OJP's priority areas and important steps in the application process. And finally, we will point you towards where you can seek out assistance if you have any issues with your application or any questions about the solicitation that aren't answered here or that you did not get a chance to ask today. And then I will open the webinar up for Q&A. So by way of background, the SPI program has existed since 2009, which makes it a very mature BJA program, and its goals have been to support law enforcement's efforts to identify and test innovative and evidence-based solutions to their most pressing policing challenges and crime problems. And over this last decade, we have increased law enforcement agencies' use of innovative technology, intelligence, and data, encouraged collaboration among key crime reduction partners, promoted evidence-based practices, and encouraged sustainable partnerships between police and researchers. And by injecting science into policing practice, SPI has benefited both individual jurisdictions' work in their effectiveness in reducing crime, but we've also provided the policing field with information on what works in crime reduction for what we like to think of as a win-win. And thus far, we have supported 65 law enforcement agencies as they change the way they do business. The central way we do this is to competitively award funding to support initiatives that improve agencies' crime-fighting capacity. Under SPI, which is released as a solicitation annually, jurisdictions compete to receive funding for 3-year initiatives. And the proposed project must target a pressing operational, technology implementation, or crime reduction issue for intervention or implementation. And SPI sites often partner with researchers to evaluate their progress and results. In terms of what types of initiatives SPI supports, it's a very broad portfolio, with police departments addressing issues related to violent crime reduction, technology implementation, crime analysis capacity building, addressing dangerous people and places, and innovative approaches to individuals with mental health and or substance abuse crisis disorders. And after receiving an SPI grant, SPI sites have access to intensive training and technical assistance, and that really has been key to our site's success. And you can learn more at strategiesforpolicinginnovation.com regarding our ongoing work. And here's just a sampling of what SPI has enabled local jurisdictions to accomplish. In Boston, the SPI project resulted in a significant increase in its homicide clearance rate. And in Chicago, Illinois, they were able to implement a strategic decision support center model, which is a real-time crime center approach in select districts across the city to focus on their hotspots. And they ended up seeing a 33% reduction in shooting incidents where these were implemented. compared to a 14% reduction in non-SDSC districts. Rochester's SPI project resulted in the development and validation of a risk assessment tool to predict retaliatory gun violence disputes and is associated with an extended decline in aggravated assaults and murder in the city. That still continues. In Commerce City, Colorado, the SPI-supported sexual assault task force enabled them to manage a 46% increase in sexual assault investigations and receive an award for their efforts. So these examples are meant to illustrate the diversity and complexity of the work, and equally important, this also shows the importance of evaluating each site's implementation and outcome of the intervention so that their successes can be, one, promoted, but also explained to the police field generally. Who is an eligible applicant? And it's rather broad. State, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies may apply, as well as governmental non-law enforcement agencies who act as fiscal agents for specific law enforcement agencies. This can include state administrating agencies, state universities, and also tribal governments that perform law enforcement functions, as well as tribal consortia are eligible to apply. And we love partnership in SPI. So 2 or more entities may certainly participate and be involved in the project, but only one can serve as the lead applicant. So that's something important to keep in mind if you are focusing on a partnership-oriented project. And all recipients and subrecipients must forego any profit or management fee, but that is a standard BJA requirement. Common and allowable costs that can be supported with SPI funds are new personnel, overtime support, technology purchase, both hardware and software, as well as data analysis support. And this can be to support the professional evaluation of the project, as well as build your crime analysis capacity, crime analysis support within a police agency. And grant amounts are capped at $700,000 for each award, regardless of purpose area you apply to. And we have 2 purpose areas this year. Purpose Area 1 supports projects that implement innovative approaches to crime reduction or police operations, while Purpose Area 2 supports technology-driven initiatives that promote public safety and address precipitous increase in crime in the applicant jurisdiction. You may apply to both, but they should be different projects with different focuses. So Purpose Area 1 is focused on innovative and evidence-based policing practices. And I would highly recommend visiting strategiesforpolicinginnovation.com and taking a look at the projects highlighted there. In particular, I advise that you look at projects in Los Angeles, Tempe, Arizona, Detroit, Chicago, Portland, Oregon, and Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. These really illustrate the breadth of crime issues and organizational challenges that this innovation purpose area has helped police agencies tackle. Purpose Area 2 is focused on technology or information sharing solutions that help agencies address a specific and precipitously increasing type of crime in their jurisdiction. That's a crime that's dramatically increasing within the context of that given community. We funded projects under this purpose area last year for the first time, and you can read about them again on strategiesforpolicinginnovation.com. Specifically, please see the 2019 projects funded in Houston, DC, Roanoke, Salisbury, North Carolina, and Anniston, Alabama. We are often asked, how an application can be strengthened. What is a typical application? We've been doing this for a long time in SPI, so we've identified some specific elements or themes that are key to a successful project. First, strong support from the chief of the department, who is willing to message that SPI and the project it supports is a high priority for the team and the department is extremely important. A clear evidence-based plan to examine the drivers of the crime problem or organizational challenge and base the intervention on the findings of that analysis is also a key element. There must be a willingness to change SOPs and other business practices and be open to opportunities for improvement, which I know can be a minefield in police organizations because change is not easy, and your jobs are very busy. So but that's something we've seen as extremely important and very beneficial, under SPI. And finally, a commitment to keeping up the work after the grant ends so that successful approaches remain in place and continue to benefit the agency and community after the sunset of the grant funding. And so I highly recommend checking the review criteria for the purpose areas on pages 13 through 15 of the solicitation. There's no secret formula. That is what will be used by our peer reviewers to score your applications. So it's very important to consider that information when you are composing your application. So proposed projects may be up to 36 months time-wise, and each award will be limited to $700,000. I believe we will make about 10 awards this year, should all the math work out. The submissions, will use evidence-based strategies and programs. Evidence-based practices is often a buzzword, but it is very real and tangible to us, and that is what we are looking to support under SPI. You must back up your proposed project with data-based reasoning and approaches. There is no match for this program, and these are grants, not cooperative agreements, which make some differences in the post-award management of the project. And the start date will be October 1st, 2020 or later, and all applications are due on May 12th, 2020. Now, I know that all of you will probably have some concerns regarding COVID-19 and how deadlines will be handled given the pandemic. Any concerns about that? Any issues you are running into in submitting by that deadline that are based upon the effects of COVID-19 should be submitted by email to the NCJRS point of contact included at the end of this presentation. New this year, also, the Office of Justice Programs, which is BJA's parent agency, has determined that this application review process will include priority consideration of applicants that are submitted by federally recognized tribes, that propose to reduce criminal gang activity in rural communities, illustrate a nexus with Project Guardian, and that in that case, the application must include a letter of interest from the applicable U.S. attorney, and agree to comply with one or more law enforcement-related award conditions. And I highly recommend you see page 7 of the solicitation and the appendices B, C, and D for additional information on these priority areas. So the process, just so you're fully aware of how this works, the applications will be submitted by the deadline. They are reviewed to ensure that they meet the basic minimum requirements stated in the solicitation. They then are moved forward to peer review and are reviewed by a panel of 3 independent reviewers. Those scores are presented to BJA staff overseeing the process, which would be me, and then I provide the results to the BJA acting director with recommendations for funding. And the BJA acting director makes the final decision and submits the recommended applications to the Office of Justice Programs Assistant Attorney General. And upon approval of awards to be issued to successful candidates no later than 9/30/2020. The NCJRS Response Center is available to answer questions as they arise during the application process. You can also find links to current OJP funding opportunities and notices. If you anticipate circumstances regarding COVID-19 as a possibility interfering with your agency's ability to meet the deadline, please document this current concern with NCJRS. We are monitoring the situation, and we will need that information moving forward to make any changes. We do not currently plan to extend the May 12th deadline, and this advisement should not alter your grant submission timeline. Grants.gov also offers a customer support hotline. If you have any issues submitting your application, please look at the solicitation for obtaining a DUNS number in time to ensure that you have everything in place to apply, because there are some aspects of the electronic application process that can take a few days to get in place. So please don't wait until the last minute, as that would hold up your application, and we do not grant any waivers based on someone waiting to get that information in place. You can always find our available funding and our news on social media, and as well as our website at bja.gov. And there are also some recommended resources. If you're new to grant applications, I would highly recommend looking at the webinars located at this link, the first steps to applying, the federal funding process, and submitting your application, avoiding common mistakes. As I said, there are a few steps in the process that can take a little bit of time, and so the sooner that you start and the more information you have regarding the process, the better off you'll be. The SPI solicitation is located at this link, and here's the SPI website that I kept on referring to, where you can see the current work that we have underway. We also have information available at the OJP Funding Resource Center. The DOJ Financial Guide will provide very useful information in terms of allowable costs and guiding your budget development. The DOJ Grants Financial Management online training will be required for anyone receiving the grant. And then there's also the 2019 OJP Grant Application Resource Guide, which I do not believe has been updated for 2020. And of course, there's NIJ's crimesolutions.gov, which can give you some useful information on the crime reduction approaches that have been proven to be effective and that are evidence-based, and that might be useful in considering your approach in your proposed SPI project and your problem analysis. Thank you so much. You can always also contact us at BJA, and at this point, I will open it up for questions.
Hi, Kate. We did receive a question in the chat, and that is, are there ways that BJA can connect vendors to agencies interested in applying for these grants that involve technological capabilities?
We have to be a neutral party in all of that. You are welcome to look at the website for the agencies that are participating in SPI, and you have every right to reach out to those agencies, but we cannot play an active role in connecting vendors with police agencies. Do grant proposals will require a research partner such as a university? Research partners are not required. However, to achieve the standard that we seek in terms of program evaluation and ensuring that you can measure the outcomes of your project, you should ensure that the participants in the project are capable of providing that kind of analytical and evaluative support.
Are there any mandatory conferences that need to be attended?
Yes. So long as we are all gathering together next year, as I hope we will be, and this should be outlined in the solicitation, we do have an annual meeting of SPI award recipients every year, We usually have it in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And I think we ask that you be prepared to send 3 to 4 members of your team, including anyone, including folks on the crime analysis, operations, and or research side to take part in that. Good question. Thank you.
Hearing no other questions, thank you, Kate, and thank you for all our attendees for chatting with us today about the SPI solicitation. And again, if you have any questions about the solicitation, please direct them towards the BJA solicitation at the end of this webinar contact information. So with that, we hope everybody stays safe and has a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Chris and Emma in CNA. Take care, everyone.
Thank you,
Stay
Kate.
well.